Most first responder relationships, actually, believe it or not, do not end in a great big blow up or that final fight. They end much, much sooner before that. The problem is it never gets addressed. What actually is happening is much quieter than this, and it's a lot harder to see coming. You see a slow, fading drift where two people who genuinely love each other gradually just stop reaching for each other because the disconnect and the gap is so wide they don't even know how to make the connection anymore. So today we're going to talk about what that looks like and how you can prevent it or make a comeback in your relationship.
Okay, let's do this.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Aaron Smith. I'm a retired police officer. I work with burned out first responders who are struggling mentally, emotionally, had it in their relationships, their purpose and identity, putting together programs and systems to help you get back to living the life that you are supposed to be living right now. All right, so what's going on here? What makes this slow fade in a relationship so dangerous is that everything looks just fine. Nobody's screaming, nobody's yelling, but the problem is you're merely coexisting. Or what my wife and I would say, we are just roommates. You're making it work, and you just think now or believe that this is what long-term relationships look like, or this is just what life looks like now, and you get so used to it. You think to yourself, this is just what the job is done, or this is what it looks like, and in fact, that's a huge misconception and a huge lie. But by the time you realize everything is not fine, and understanding that coexisting is far different than connection, and the distance that has grown between the two of you is so wide that nobody really knows or understands or makes the effort to bridge that gap and to make that first connection, to getting the relationship back on track and getting the two of you connected. A lot of times it starts with the small things. You'll really stop asking about each other's day because you're so used to getting the same answer. You're fine. I'm tired. There's nothing new to report. It was just another day like every other day. These are the things that we've become so familiar with in giving the answers to our spouses that they just don't care, or not that they don't care, but they'll stop making that connection because in their mind, they already know what the answer is going to be.
I know what you're going to say and I don't want to hear it.
You guys will stop making plans because your schedules are so unpredictable and so out of whack that the energy is gone when you seemingly do have the time. You stop genuinely bringing up the things that bother you because the last few times that you did turned into an argument, a fight, and the silent treatment. And you start saying to yourself, it's just not worth it. You're too tired. You're too fatigued. And here's the thing about those small withdrawals. They're usually pretty rational. Each one makes sense in isolation. You're tired, you're stressed out, you're protecting yourself from a conversation that's going nowhere. But every time you withdraw, every time there's a miscommunication, every time you stop pressing in, it's like a small brick being added and added and added until eventually behind the scenes there's this wall that's built that's put up between the two of you where no connections are being made whatsoever. Everybody's just checked out. Looking back now, I watched this happen in our marriage, in my very own relationship while I was a first responder. And as a retired police officer, now looking back, having real open and honest conversations with my wife, doing the real work, we started figuring out what happened, what went sideways, and where was the disconnect. And after stopping and actually listening to my wife explain, I could now understand where that drift started, what was happening, and what kept it going for so many years. I was just ignorant to the fact and blind to it because I thought this is how life is, this is how it's going to be while I'm in the career and while we're raising the kids. And that is absolutely not true. Our relationship wasn't thriving, it was surviving. And even worse than that, we just became roommates. And what happened is that we became very close to losing each other without even realizing it or even intending to.
I mean, how could you not see that?
Now, I want to explain something that most relationship advice will not explain because most relationships aren't encountering the things or they don't have the stressors of the career and the job that you have. And this is not written for people who do not do what you do as a first responder. You don't come home in neutral. You come home stressed out. Your nervous system's ramped up all day long. You've been on high alert for many hours and your emotional bandwidth is completely wiped out. We've addressed this and we've talked about this in other videos as well. And your decision-making capacity is completely shot. And the version of you or your spouse that comes through that door is the version of them still at work. still on the job, which often there isn't very much left. So when your spouse needs connection, needs conversation, needs presence, needs the person that they're married to actually show up, first responders not really withholding it on purpose. Their system is just genuinely run out and there's not much left to give. That does not make it okay. But what often looks like not caring means that you're not caring for yourself as the first responder. You're not handling business before you come home to be present with your spouse and your family. And you might be realizing it, but you're not doing anything about it.
How dare you say that to me?
You're just settling for the status quo because, again, this is how life is, or this is just running on autopilot and it's destroying you. So if you're not caring about yourself, and those are two separate issues to be dealing with. And if the fade in this relationship goes far enough, we'll call it like the parallel lives, or what my wife and I called it is that we were just living as roommates. You're living in the same house, maybe sharing the same bed, maybe not, raising the kids, but you're not actually living together. You have separate routines, separate social lives, separate emotional words and ways of communicating things to each other that you're not on the same page, and then you're miscommunicating, so you give up altogether. So you've figured out how to coexist so efficiently that coexisting now is just the norm, and it feels like the norm. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're always arguing or always fighting, but you're just there. A lot of times we'll see that this is where affairs happen. Not always physical ones, but emotional ones. If you're not connecting emotionally and physically with your spouse over months, maybe years, what happens is that they are going to find somebody that's going to connect with them. That's one of our basic needs. We need certainty. We need to be loved. We need to feel that emotional support and strength. And if they're not getting it, then they will seek emotional support from somebody else. This is where we'll see both parties finding connection elsewhere that they're not finding at home. Connection, attention, being seen by others, and that personal relationship will begin to form. And this is often the stage where people wake up one day, sometimes years into it, and realize that they are just strangers now living in the same house, doing life together but yet on separate terms. But you've drifted apart unintentionally with the person that you are trying to build a life with, or who you are meant to build a life with. Not because anything dramatic happened, because oftentimes nothing did. Because oftentimes the slow fade finished building its business while the couple go about living their lives. So how do we stop this fade that's already in progress?
Would you please tell me already?
Actually, it's simple. The exact same way that it started. It's with one intentional decision, one small thing at a time, but just in the opposite direction. How about one real honest conversation instead of a casual check-in? How about a date night where the phones are put away and you're actually spending time with each other and being very intentional? How about one honest admission from one and or both of you? Oftentimes what this would look like is that I would come back after probably an argument and say to my wife, you know what, I know that I have not been there for you in presence. Or a big one was, I know you are just trying to check in on me because you care about me. You don't care necessarily what happened at work. You don't care about or wanting to know all of the dramatic details. I know that you care about me and are checking on me, and I'm sorry I haven't been there for you in terms of letting you know emotionally and mentally how I am doing.
You're such a jerk.
Tell them that you want to be more present and ask them, how can I be more present for you? Or how can I do this for you? Remember, in our relationships, oftentimes the piece that we forget about is our serving one another. So ask them, how can I be there for you? One small thing. This is not a grand gesture. This does not have to be something that's way outside the box or something over the top extraordinary, because probably they'll become a little suspicious of you. But one conversation, one small thing at a time. Because consistently, over time, one step at a time, are how things gradually get reversed and the two of you start knowing each other again the way you did maybe back in the day when you first met, or you first got married, or you were courting. That's what we're looking for, is that connection that we had back then. We want to take our relationship back to that and then make it healthy and make it thrive again. But here's something that I learned with working with first responder couples quite often, is that nothing really changes until you as the first responder begins to understand and know that you have to change.
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
Not because it's all your fault, but understand most of the time the version of you that comes home is the version of you from work that the spouse and the family is getting when you walk through that door. And that's the version of you that many of you have never been taught how to address it. That's why we share these videos and we share this information, because we see the same patterns time after time again. That's why we're adamant in maybe bringing the same situations up on these videos to you time after time again, because you need to hear it again and again. That's what enacts that change. That's what starts bringing the relationship forward.
Okay, yeah, I get it now.
Understanding what the job is doing to you underneath the surface, what it's doing to your nervous system, how it's hijacking your thoughts and your brain, and all of those things that are combined making you check out. If you've recognized anything in your relationship today that we've talked about, the quiet drift, the parallel lives, the distance that continues to be building up between the two of you, not necessarily fighting about it or even arguing about it at times, I want you to understand and know that this is not the end of the story or the relationship. The fate can be reversed, but it's deciding on who's going to go first. Make yourself the person that goes first. Go a little bit below the surface level with an admission, with a how can I serve you, and simple steps will start turning this around and the connection will be made. I promise you. This is work. It's not easy, but it's simple. Drop a comment below. Tell me where you are in this situation. Are you in the early stages, or is the distance become so great and you realize that it's been building for a while? We read all of the comments. Share this with somebody who needs to hear it. Subscribe to our channel. Give us a thumbs up and a like if you would. And if you want to talk about what the specific fade actually looks like in your relationship for your specific situation, there's a link below for a free call, not a sales pitch. Just an honest conversation. So if we can work with you and help you through this, we coach first responder couples quite frequently, and we often see the same patterns, and we're able to break those patterns quite frequently. Other than that, that's it for now. We'll see you at the next one.